Hello and welcome to my channel. I Went to Lose Gaming. Kokomi is coming soon, and thanks to all the previews that miHoYo has provided us, we have an idea of what to expect from the upcoming mermaid LARPing military strategist, Kokomi. We're going to start off with both a positive and a negative, and that is that her primary role is that of a healer. Being a healer is great. The current floor 11 highly encourages the use of a healer. And also, look how strong Bennett is, who is also a fellow healer. But that's where the good ends. Kokomi, primarily being a healer, overlaps with some already existing amazing healers, like Bennett, Jean, and even Diona. On top of that, everyone got Barbara for free, who also happens to be a Hydro Catalyst healer. Sadly, it appears that Kokomi's damage is largely during her burst, given that it's rare to run two Hydro characters in a team, and that her jellyfish doesn't appear to spawn a ton of particles. Kokomi might also have energy issues. On top of all that, her burst forces her to stay on the field to get the most out of her kit. This is a massive opportunity cost for the rest of her team and steals valuable time away from a proper DPS character being on the field. Outside of her burst, it's likely that Kokomi will do very little besides apply Hydro, heal the current active character, and potentially add some buffs to her team through equipment related buffs such as the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers and the Tenacity of the Millilith. Being a sub DPS healer that doesn't scale off crit and that scales off HP, this means that Kokomi will probably be very cheap to build. Similar to other HP scaling characters, the biggest gains are from leveling up. Many or most characters, I only checked a few, gain 13.3% HP going from 80 out of 80 to 90 out of 90. For example, a character like Zhongli gains huge amounts of shielding power simply by leveling up with HP% main stat artifacts, and then leveling up his talents. While level 90 out of 90 isn't cheap, it's both guaranteed and steady progress, while not having to rely on the potentially infinite resin sink that artifacts are. On top of this, simply slap on some proper main stat artifacts like an HP% timepiece, Hydro damage goblet, and healing % circlet, and Kokomi is pretty much good to go. Kokomi, being an HP scaling character that doesn't scale with crit, has both a high floor and a low ceiling. For example, a character like Albedo is easy to gear in comparison to his peers, being able to use all those unwanted defense % artifacts, along with the 3-star weapon, the Harbinger of Dawn. Kokomi is similar, but her floor is even higher than Albedo's since she cannot crit. This means that Kokomi has arguably the highest floor in the entire game, but this comes at the severe cost of having a very low ceiling. Because she cannot crit, farming a bunch of artifacts for her will only see a linear gain in damage. TDOS overlap. This next one can be seen as both a negative and a positive, but it's the existence of the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. Tying into the previous point of Kokomi being cheap to build, the Thrilling Tale should be a great weapon for Kokomi since she scales off HP, and the Thrilling Tales has HP% as a secondary stat. However, this becomes a bit of a problem if you have two support catalyst users in the same party, like for example Sucrose and Kokomi. But with the introduction of the new craftable Hakushin Ring, you can now have two support catalysts buff your team's damage compared to only the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. Sadly, the Hakushin Ring only buffs elemental damage if you trigger an electro reaction with it, and it also only has a 6-second buff duration, but it still is a second option. Being a Hydro Catalyst character, Kokomi will have reliable Hydro application and can perform the much needed and coveted role of Hydro enabler. Along with her jellyfish for some off-field Hydro application, Kokomi can absolutely function as one of the better Hydro enablers in the game. Currently, Xingqiu, Child, and Mona are all used as Hydro enablers for various teams. For example, Mona is used in the freeze comps with Ganyu and Ayaka, Child is used in Xiangling comps for reverse vape, and Xingqiu is used in either comp if you're missing Mona or Child, and he's also used in taser comps as well as vape comps with Diluc and Hu Tao. Funnily enough, not only can Kokomi be slotted in most of these comps, besides the Hu Tao and Diluc vape comps, she's also a healer, providing some nice role compression. However, it's very important to note that Kokomi will enhance damage much less than Mona. Kokomi will do a lot less damage than Child, and Kokomi's off-field Hydro application and damage is not nearly as good as Xingqiu's. But if you're in need of an almost universal Hydro enabler that's not best in any particular Hydro enabling role but still good, then Kokomi might be the character for you. Again, I don't recommend her for vaping Diluc and Hu Tao, which is a role that only Xingqiu can perform. Low but non-negligible damage. This next one is the most speculative portion of them all, and while we don't expect her to hit like a complete wet noodle, it's likely that Kokomi will have comparatively low damage to an actual DPS character. Now this does not mean that her damage will be insufficient, and you really don't need that much damage to complete most of the content in this game. But as we've seen in Genshin Impact, doing more damage is usually the way to go. Not only do we get addicted to the dopamine created by seeing giant numbers and enemies melt away, but bigger numbers also clears content much more quickly. So if you feel like damage is what you're lacking, investing into an actual DPS character like Ganyu, Hu Tao, and Xiao, who are all long overdue for a rerun, or even the Raiden Shogun, will provide you with much quicker clear times. Better use of your Primo Gems. We should always remember the cost of a 5-star character. Given that it's around 105 pulls, or $200 worth of Primo Gems for a single 5-star character, Kokomi is a questionable use of your highly valuable Primos. If you're lacking in top tier DPS characters like Ganyu, Hu Tao, Eula, etc., having 1 or 2 of them will carry you much further in comparison to having another healer on top of your already existing healers. We always have to consider the opportunity cost of those Primo Gems, and it's arguable that even a signature 5-star weapon or constellations on a character like Raiden is worth much more than a Constellation 0 Kokomi is. Now let's summarize Kokomi's anticipated pros and cons. Starting with her pros, Kokomi is a healer. She heals. Kokomi is a catalyst user. She can use the Thrilling Tales or the Hakushin Ring to buff her team. All her attacks can potentially apply Hydro, although she likely has the standard ICD on her normal attacks. Kokomi is cheap to build, only needing the proper main stats on her artifacts, levels, talent levels, and Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers all makes Kokomi a comparatively cheap character to build. Kokomi has a high floor in terms of her potential. Being the only non-crit character in the game, her floor is very high. Kokomi is a Hydro enabler. She works well in both Morgana and Reverse Vape. Hydro enablers are actually few and far between. Kokomi should do non-negligible damage. Kokomi's damage should be sufficient for a lot of the content in this game. And finally, Kokomi provides all of the above, which is a lot of role compression. Next, let's talk about her cons. Her main role is that of a healer. Since her primary role is that of a healer and everyone got Barbara for free and likely has some combination of Bennett, Diona, Jean, Chi-Chi, Kokomi feels far from necessary to pull. Low ceiling. Since she cannot crit, her damage only grows linearly in comparison to a crit scaling character that grows multiplicatively, with better artifacts. Power crept already. In terms of currently existing team comps, the other Hydro enablers are better than Kokomi when it comes to providing damage to that team. Low damage. While Kokomi's damage cannot be completely ignored, she's certainly not going to be the second coming of Ganyu. Better use of your Primo Gems. Saving for Ganyu or even pulling Constellation 2 on Raiden is likely a better use of your Primo Gems. Tied to her burst. It's likely that a substantial portion of Kokomi's healing, as well as her damage, will be tied to her burst. This means that she could also have issues with energy recharge, as well as being a lot less useful outside of her burst. Poor representation. Am I the only one that felt like Kokomi was really insignificant in the story? Her trailer also felt disappointing to me in comparison to most other characters' trailers. So there you go, a bunch of things to consider for the upcoming mermaid LARPer, Kokomi. While she's not likely to make the biggest splash in Genshin Impact, I think that she is far from useless and consolidates many important roles. But despite that, it's highly likely there will be better uses for your hard-earned Primo Gems. Also, I regularly make Genshin Impact videos, ranging from Caesar showcases, DPS showdowns, guide videos, and more. So be sure to smash the subscribe button as it's the best and easiest way for you to support my work. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. Let me know what you think about our favorite upcoming mermaid LARPer, Kokomi. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Went to Lose, signing out.